cigarette smoke hovering over the board, and the psychological warfare of what is often called the golden age of chess.
It really is a fascinating period to analyze. You have these absolute titans of the game just walking the earth. Alexander Alekhine, Jose Raul Capablanca, Emmanuel Lasker.
Yeah.
These weren't just sports stars. In the intellectual circles of Europe, they were treated almost like mythological figures.
Right, like intellectual giants.
Exactly. Giants who seemed to possess secrets the rest of us couldn't comprehend. And today, we get to look at them not through a dry history book, but through the eyes of a man who actually sat across the board from all of them.
We are diving into the memoirs and the life of Vladas Mikenas. Now, I'll be honest. When I first picked up this stack of sources, specifically the collection simply titled Vladas Mikenas, compiled by Dvorkovich, the name didn't really ring a bell for me. I know Bobby Fischer, I know Magnus Carlsen, I know Kasparov, but Mikenas.
He is definitely less of a household name for the casual fan.
That's unusual.
But for the chess historian, and certainly for anyone in the Baltic region, he is a pivotal figure.
After reading this, I feel like Mikenas is, well, the best analogy I could come up with is that he's the Forrest Gump of Baltic chess.
That is actually a surprisingly accurate analogy.
Right. He is everywhere. He's a Lithuanian grandmaster, but his story starts in Estonia. He bridges the gap between the old world, the gentlemen in suits and monocles, and the Soviet era of Botvinnik and Mikhail Tal.
He sees it all. He's there for the rise of the Soviet school. He's there for the golden age of the 30s.
But what I love about this source material is that it's not dry. It is full of gossip. It's full of these deeply human moments.
It is. Mikenas had a very sharp wit, and he was incredibly observant. He wasn't just calculating variations on the board, he was watching his opponents.
Okay.
He noticed when they were nervous, when they were arrogant, and when they were distracted. He saw the person behind the moves.
And he was self-deprecating.
Yeah.
There are so many stories in here where the punchline is essentially, and then I made a complete fool of myself.
Which is so rare for a chess master. Usually the memoirs are all about, look at this brilliant move I found, or here is how I outsmarted the champion.
Yeah, it's all ego.
Mikenas is different. He gives us the texture of the tournament hall, the cigarette smoke, the heavy silence, the trembling hands. He humanizes the gods.
So, our mission today is to unpack the human side of chess history through Mikenas' eyes. We have got tragic backstories, blindfold exhibitions gone wrong, and a lot of very bruised egos. Which leads us to our first great anecdote, which takes place in 1925. This is the Richard Reddy story. I have to say, I laughed out loud at this one.
Oh, it's a classic.
It captures the essence of being a teenager perfectly.
It is the perfect example of youthful arrogance meeting established genius.
So, set the scene for us. Who is Richard Reddy? Why is his visit to Tallinn such a big deal?
Richard Reddy is a legend. He's one of the founders of hypermodernism in chess. Before him, chess was very classical, control the center with pawns, develop knights and bishops behind them. Simple.
Yeah.
Reddy said, no, control the center from a distance with pieces, let the opponent take the center, and then destroy it. He changed the whole way the game was played. He was an intellectual revolutionary.
So he's revolutionary. And he visits Tallinn to give a simultaneous exhibition. But not just any exhibition. A blindfold exhibition.
It's a blindfold memorial.
Just to clarify for everyone, because this always blows my mind. This means Reddy is sitting in a chair, facing away from the boards, playing multiple people at once, keeping all the moves in his head.
Yes. In this case, 20 boards.
20.
That's 20 different games, 64 squares per board, 32 pieces per board. He has to remember the position of every single pawn and knight on 20 different battlefields simultaneously.
I can barely remember what I had for breakfast.
It is a feat of mental endurance that is almost impossible to describe.
Yeah.
It's like playing 20 games of Tetris in your mind at different speeds while people are shouting moves at you.
So you have this world-famous grandmaster doing this mental magic trick. And then you have Vladas Mikenas. He's 15 years old. He's a confident schoolboy. He thinks he's pretty good. And he sits down at one of the boards.
And he has a plan. A very cunning, very 15-year-old plan.
I love this logic. Walk us through it.
He thinks, okay, this guy can't see the board. His only weakness is memory. If I play normal, logical chess, he will beat me because he understands structure better than I do.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, he decides, I am going to play complicated chess.
I'll create chaos.
Exactly. Mikenas decides to create a mess on the board. He wants to create complications. Tangled pawn structures, weird piece placements, breaking the principles of the game. The logic is, if it's messy and illogical, the guy with the blindfold will lose the thread.
He'll forget a piece somewhere.
Right. He won't be able to visualize it because it doesn't make any sense.
It sounds solid in theory. If you throw enough sand in the gears, the machine should break.
In theory, yes. So Mikenas weaves this tangled web. He complicates the position to the absolute maximum. He's feeling very clever. He's making moves that probably looked insane just to test Reddy's memory. And then...
the punchline.
He confuses himself. Reddy, with the blindfold, sees everything perfectly clearly in his mind because he understands the relationships between the pieces, regardless of how weird the structure is.
It doesn't matter where they are, he knows how they relate.
Right. But Mikenas, looking right at the board with his own two eyes, gets lost in his own complications. He can't calculate through the mess he created. He blunders. He loses.
That is fantastic. The 15-year-old trying to outsmart the genius and tripping over his own shoelaces. It's a lesson in humility.
It is. And Reddy was very gracious. After the event where he won 17 games, drew 2, and lost only 1, he said something very telling. He said, blindfold play brings excitement to the public, but for us professionals, it is a means of livelihood at the cost of one's health.
That's a sobering thought. You can imagine the headache after playing 20 games in your head.
It killed many players, honestly, or at least it contributed to early burnout. It's immensely draining. But Mikenas learned a vital lesson there. You cannot just trick a master with chaos. You have to actually play good moves.
Right.
Chaos without calculation is just suicide.
Speaking of young, confident kids, let's fast forward a few years. Mikenas is now a bit more established. He's not the schoolboy anymore. He's a strong player.
Yeah.
He's playing in a tournament in Pärnu, a resort town in Estonia.
Right.
And now he is the one giving a simultaneous exhibition.
The tables have turned. He is the master now. He is the one walking around the circle of tables.
And he notices a kid.
Yes. Mikenas describes this scruffy boy in short pants. He specifically mentions the short pants to emphasize how young this kid looked.
Yeah.
He says the kid's nose barely reached the height of the chessboard, and this kid is running around the hall like he owns the place.
Is he playing?
No, that's the thing. He's giving advice to Mikenas' opponents. He is running to one board, whispering a move, then running to another.
That is incredibly annoying. If I'm giving a simul, I'd kick him out. That's interference.
Mikenas definitely found it annoying, but he had this kind of arrogant dismissal. He writes, let him run. He's only bothering others. It makes it easier for me.
So he assumed the kid was just giving bad advice.
Exactly. Just some local brat who thought he knew chess. He thought if they listen to the kid in short pants, they'll lose faster.
Right.
But the kid was Paul Keres.
Paul Keres, the crown prince of chess.
Oh,
one of the strongest players never to become world champion. A legend of the game.
The very same. And Mikenas realized pretty quickly that the advice the kid was giving was actually excellent.
Oh, no.
The opponents started making very strong moves. The positions started getting difficult for Mikenas.
They ended up playing a match later, didn't they? Mikenas and Keres.
They did. And Mikenas, who was the champion of Estonia at the time, the big dog in the yard, got a serious reality check. The boy in short pants beat him.
What was the score?
The score was +5 wins for Keres, -2 losses, and 3 draws.
Wow. That is a changing of the guard moment.
It is. But Mikenas wasn't bitter. This is what I like about him. He wrote about it with a lot of warmth. He recognized the talent immediately. He basically said, I predicted a massive future for him, and I'm glad I wasn't wrong.
That shows a lot of character.
It does. He could appreciate genius even when it was beating him. He knew he was witnessing something special.
So Mikenas is becoming a strong master in the Baltic region. But the real big leagues are the Olympiads. This is the World Cup of Chess. And in 1931, the Chess Olympiad is in Prague. This seems like the moment where he steps onto the world stage.
This was a huge moment for him. You have to remember, there was no internet. You couldn't watch Magnus Carlsen play Blitz on YouTube. You couldn't check an engine.
Right.
Mikenas had studied the games of the gods, Alekhine, Capablanca, Rubinstein from books and newspapers. He knew their moves, but he didn't know them.
The source describes him arriving in Prague and literally hiding in the bushes.
Close to it. He says he hid in a corner of the Novak Cafe, trembling.
Trembling?
Physically trembling. He just wanted to watch them arrive. It's like a fanboy spotting a movie star. He didn't want to approach them. He just wanted to verify they were real people made of flesh and bone.
And then Alexander Alekhine walks in.
The world champion. And Alekhine, in 1931, he was terrifying. He was at the absolute peak of his powers. Mikenas describes the aura. He says Alekhine was tall, strong, blonde, and he had these thick, horn-rimmed glasses.
Which didn't hide his eyes.
No. Mikenas says the glasses couldn't hide his intense, confident gaze. He said he was physically trembling just watching Alekhine take off his coat. That is the level of celebrity and intimidation these guys had.
Wow.
Alekhine didn't just beat you, he crushed your soul. He dominated the room before he even moved a pawn.
But Alekhine wasn't the only character there. We have to talk about the professor and the wit. This deep dive introduces us to Milan Vidmar and Savili Tartakower. These two represent the soul of that era.
Absolutely. They are the perfect contrast to the modern professional.
Let's start with Vidmar, because his story leads to one of the funniest moments in the book.
Milan Vidmar was a fascinating anomaly. He was a grandmaster, world-class, top 10 in the world. But he wasn't a professional chess player.
What do you mean?
He was a professor of electrical engineering, a serious academic. He specialized in power transformers. He only played chess on his vacation.
That is insane. Imagine someone today having a full-time job as a scientist at MIT and then showing up to play against Carlsen on their weeks off.
And holding his own. And beating people. Vidmar was a jovial guy, loved to smoke, very relaxed. He treated chess as a beautiful hobby, which made him dangerous because he didn't have the same financial pressure as the others. He played for the love of art.
And then you have Tartakower, the wit.
Tartakower is my personal favorite. He was a journalist, a poet, and a degenerate gambler.
A gambler.
Oh, yeah. He loved roulette. He would win a brilliant chess prize cash in hand and lose it all at the casino the next night. He famously said, "I never win at roulette, but I also never lose at chess," essentially.
He sounds like a character from a movie.
He was. And he took Mikenas under his wing a bit. He's the one who gave Mikenas that famous advice. In chess, there is only one mistake: underestimating the opponent.
Which brings us to the game between Mikenas and Vidmar. This is the cigarette story.
This is one of the best anecdotes in the book because it perfectly captures the arrogance of the established order. So, Mikenas is playing Vidmar. Mikenas is the young underdog from Lithuania. Vidmar is the legend, the professor.
And Vidmar is feeling good.
Oh, he is very comfortable. The press actually described the scene. Vidmar is sitting there, smoking a cigarette, looking totally relaxed. He plays his moves instantly.
Just blitzing them out.
He is thinking, I will crush this kid from Lithuania and go get a nice dinner. He's barely paying attention.
And Mikenas.
Mikenas plays the Slav defense. Solid, reliable structure. He's trying to keep it together. But then Vidmar gets a little too relaxed. He actually gets up from the board and goes for a walk.
While Mikenas is thinking.
Yes. But it gets worse. The reports say he was sitting on a nearby table, swinging his legs, chatting with people. Just total disregard for the game.
He's treating Mikenas like a buy-round.
Completely. He comes back to the board, expecting Mikenas to have made a weak move so he can finish him off.
But Mikenas had cooked something up.
He had. While Vidmar was swinging his legs, Mikenas found a tactical combination. A trap. A subtle move that Vidmar had completely overlooked because he was too busy being charming. Mikenas plays his move.
And the cigarette.
Mikenas writes that Vidmar raised his cigarette to his lips, and it just froze there.
The realization.
He stared at the board. The cigarette didn't move. The color drained from his face. The smile vanished. He realized he was caught in a mating net. He was going to lose in about 14 moves.
The professor got schooled.
He did. He resigned silently. Shook hands. That moment, the frozen cigarette, that captures the brutality of chess better than any notation could. One moment you are the king of the world swinging your legs. The next moment you are dead.
It's instantaneous. I love that story. It's so cinematic. You can just see the smoke curling up from the frozen hand. But let's talk about the guy everyone was actually afraid of. Alekhine. Mike has finally had to play his idol.
Yes. And this brings us to the psychological warfare section of our discussion, because playing Alekhine wasn't just about moves.
Was it actual hypnosis? Because there were rumors about Alekhine.
There were always rumors that Alekhine used dark arts or hypnotism, but Mikenas clarifies it was metaphorical, but he felt it physically.
I see.
He admits later that he wasn't playing against the white pieces, he was playing against the legend of Alekhine.
He was psyched out. Imposter syndrome on steroids.
Completely. He talks about Alekhine's hypnotic gaze. Alekhine had this intensity. He would stare at the board, then stare at you, and you would just feel your confidence evaporating.
You start doubting yourself.
You start doubting your own calculations because, well, he's Alekhine. If he looks confident, I must be wrong.
Mikenas has actually had a good position that game, right?
He did. He had a draw, maybe even winning chances. But because it was Alekhine, Mikenas got scared. He thought, if I complicate this, the wizard will trick me. He sees things I don't see.
So he backed off.
He backed off. He tried to simplify the position. He traded pieces, hoping to just steer the game to a safe, boring draw.
And that is a mistake against Alekhine.
Fatal mistake. Alekhine was the master of squeezing water from a stone. If you play passively against him, if you try to dry the game out, he will just slowly strangle you. He will improve his position inch by inch until you suffocate.
And that's what happened. Mikenas lost.
He lost.
But the interaction afterwards was interesting. Alekhine didn't mock him.
No. Alekhine knew exactly what had happened. He was very perceptive. He squeezed Mikenas' hand, smiled, and said, "Nothing to worry about. Play bolder next time."
Play bolder. That is great advice.
It was. Alekhine basically told him, "You lost because you respected me too much. Don't respect me. Fight me."
Now contrast that with another legend Mikenas played, Efim Bogoljubov.
Bogoljubov is a character. If Alekhine was the intense predator, Bogoljubov was the eternal optimist. He was a very strong player, played for the World Championship twice, but he was also incredibly arrogant.
Okay.
He was famous for his catchphrase, "When I am white, I win because I am white. When I am black, I win because I am Bogoljubov."
That is some serious confidence, bordering on delusion.
But you need that to be a top player. He visited Tallinn in 1930. He was preparing for a world championship match against Alekhine, and he was telling everyone, "Oh, I will definitely beat him this time, no doubt." He was strutting around.
So he plays Mikenas.
Mikenas plays his trusty Slav defense. Bogoljubov, being the arrogant superstar, decides to play a weird experimental move in the opening.
Oh, no.
Basically saying, "I don't need to play proper theory against this local guy. I'll just confuse him with something weird."
It sounds like Mikenas versus Reddy all over again, but reversed.
Exactly. But this time, Mikenas is the one who keeps his cool. He navigates the complications. Bogoljubov tries to attack, but Mikenas out-attacks him. He plays accurately, punishes the experimental move, and wins the game.
He beat him.
He did. He actually won the mini-tournament ahead of the Grandmaster.
So the lesson there is, don't experiment against Mikenas in the Slav defense.
The lesson is, confidence is good, but calculation is better. And Mikenas was starting to realize that these gods could bleed. If you punch them, they fall down.
Let's move to 1933, the Folkestone Olympiad. This deep dive keeps giving us amazing characters. Now we have to talk about Sultan Khan.
Sultan Khan is one of the most mysterious figures in chess history. He was from India, a servant of a Maharaja. He arrived in Europe and started beating everyone, including Capablanca.
And the crazy part is, he didn't know the rules properly, right?
Well, he knew the rules, but he didn't know theory. He grew up playing Indian chess, where pawns move differently.
Oh, right.
They can't move 2 squares on the first move, for example. He learned European chess as an adult. He didn't know the book openings. He hadn't studied the Ruy Lopez for 20 years like the others.
He just had a gift.
He had this terrifying natural intuition. He understood the soul of the position better than the guys who had studied for decades.
So Mikenas sits down to play him, and this is where the story gets a little spicy.
It does. Mikenas titled this section of his memories Beauty and the Beast, or something similar.
Because of the one.
Right. So, Mikenas is sitting there. Sultan Khan is sitting there wearing his turban, looking very serious. But sitting right next to Sultan Khan is a beautiful woman.
Who was she?
The source suggests it might have been Miss Fatima, who was also a chess player and part of the entourage. Mikenas describes her as unusually beautiful.
And Mikenas is a young man.
He is a young man with a pulse. He admits it freely. He writes, "I was charmed. I kept looking at her. She smiled at me."
He is flirting during the game.
He is flirting. He is making eye contact with the girl. He's distracted. Meanwhile, Sultan Khan is staring at the wooden pieces. He is motionless.
Laser focused.
He isn't looking at the girl. He isn't looking at the audience. He is just calculating. He's in the zone.
And the results.
Predictable.
No.
Mikenas, distracted by beauty, gets crushed by the focused genius. Sultan Khan destroyed him. He didn't stand a chance.
And Alekhine, watching from the sidelines, couldn't resist a joke.
No. Alekhine walked by at the end, saw Mikenas resigning, saw the girl smiling, and quipped. Interesting. Today, 2 virtuosos met.
Ouch. Implying Mikenas was a virtuoso of something else.
Exactly. A virtuoso of flirting, maybe, but not chess that day. It highlights the incredible focus required at that level. You blink, you lose. Mikenas blinked.
But Mikenas did get some revenge at that tournament. Not against Sultan Khan, but against Flohr.
Yes, Flohr. a Czechoslovakian grandmaster. Very strong, very positional. A boa constrictor style player.
What does that mean?
He would just slowly squeeze the life out of you. He rarely lost, and almost never quickly. He was known for being impossible to crack. He was a machine of technique.
Mikenas had a grudge, didn't he?
A little bit. Flohr had been dismissive of him in the past. Flohr had this air of superiority, so Mikenas sits down with the white pieces and decides, I am not playing a long positional game. I am not going to let him squeeze me. I am going for the throat.
He plays aggressively.
He plays the Caracan, but an aggressive line. He sacrifices, he attacks, he creates a storm on the board immediately, and Flohr just collapses. He isn't used to being punched in the face like that so early in the game.
How fast?
In about 20 moves.
20 moves against one of the best players in the world. That is a humiliation. That's like knocking out the heavyweight champion in the first round.
It is. Flohr turned pale. He couldn't believe it. He was physically shaken. And the funny part is what happened immediately after the game.
What?
Flohr runs out of the playing hall and finds Alekhine.
He goes to complain to the world champion.
Yes. He's whining. He says, he beat me in 20 moves. How is this possible? He wanted sympathy. He wanted Alekhine to say, oh, Mikenas got lucky.
And what did Alekhine say?
Alekhine laughed in his face. He said, with Mikenas, you cannot play so sharply. You have to be careful.
That must have felt good for Mikenas.
Yeah.
Hearing the world champion basically tell the other guy, yeah, that guy is dangerous.
It validated his style. Mikenas wasn't the most consistent player, but on his day, he was dynamite. He could blow anyone off the board. And that compliment from Alekhine probably meant more than the win itself.
We have talked about the intense Alekhine, the arrogant Bogoljubov, the genius Sultan Khan. But there's one more legend we need to discuss. The old man, Emanuel Lasker.
The man who was world champion for 27 years. A mathematician, a philosopher, a friend of Einstein. By 1932, he was 64 years old. He visited Kaunas, Lithuania. This was like the grandfather of chess coming to visit.
And this gives us such a warm picture of him. The source talks about him spending time at the Conrad Cafe.
The Conrad Cafe was the chess hub, and Lasker just hung out there. But here is the thing. He didn't just play chess, he played bridge.
Card games.
Yes. And Mikenas, being the observer, notes that Lasker was terrible at bridge.
The genius chess player was bad at cards.
Mikenas says he played badly, but he lived on the high of winning small hands. He would win a tiny pot pennies, basically, and rejoice like a child.
That's amazing.
It humanizes him completely. He wasn't a calculating machine 247. He just wanted to play. He found joy in the game, even when he was bad at it.
That is so human. It makes him approachable.
It is. And there was a dinner Mikenas hosted for Lasker. Everyone was expecting this giant intellect, this intimidating figure. They were raising their glasses, toasting him, calling him a genius, praising his logic, treating him like a statue.
And Lasker interrupted them.
He did. He stopped the toast. He looked at them and said, I am not the great Alekhine. I am just simple Lasker.
I am just simple Lasker.
It sums up the difference between the two titans. Alekhine needed to be the god of chess. He needed the adulation. Lasker was a philosopher who happened to play chess. He was humble. Mikenas clearly preferred Lasker's company.
We can see why.
He felt a kinship there. He saw a man who had mastered the game but hadn't lost his humanity.
I want to touch on one more story that isn't about a game, but about the politics of the time. The 1935 Olympiad in Warsaw.
This is a stark reminder of the reality these guys lived in. We talk about games, but the world was burning around them. Poland and Lithuania had severed diplomatic relations.
There.
They were technically in a state of conflict over the Vilnius region. The borders were closed. There was no travel allowed.
So how did the Lithuanian team get to Warsaw?
They couldn't take a train. There was no direct line. They traveled to the border and the train stopped. They had to get out
And walk.
They had to walk 5 kilometers across no man's land, the neutral zone between the two hostile borders.
No way.
Carrying their suitcases, their chess sets, everything. Just walking through a field where soldiers were watching with guns from both sides.
That is dedication.
It is. And Mikenas writes that when they finally got to the Polish side, despite the political tension, despite the fact that their governments hated each other, the chess players, the family, welcomed them with open arms.
That's incredible.
It reinforces this idea that chess was a passport. It transcended the borders and the wars. For those 2 weeks, they weren't Lithuanians or Poles, they were chess players. It's a beautiful moment of unity in a fractured Europe.
It really is. So let's zoom out a bit. We have heard the stories. What was Mikenas' actual chess style? We heard Alekhine call him dangerous. We saw him crush Flohr.
Mikenas was a romantic in a modern era. He loved complications. He loved tactical traps. If the position was boring, he would make it chaotic, sometimes to his own detriment, as we saw with Reddy.
Right.
But when it worked, it was spectacular. He wasn't interested in a slow death. He wanted a fight.
And he has an opening named after him.
The Mikenas system in the English opening. But this source also mentions something called the Lithuanian variation, or sometimes the incorrect opening.
What moves are those?
1, d4, and c6.
Bringing the knight out immediately, blocking the c pawn.
Exactly. Most theory says you shouldn't block that pawn in d4 openings because the c pawn is your lever to fight for the center. It's considered incorrect by classical standards.
But he did it on purpose.
He played it as a provocation. He wanted to get his opponents out of their book knowledge immediately. He wanted a street fight, not a lecture. He wanted to say, let's see who can think better right now, not who read more books.
And later in life, he became an arbiter.
Yes. The man who once got distracted by a beautiful woman during a game became the stern judge. He was the chief arbiter for the 1985 World Championship match between Karpov and Kasparov.
Talk about bridging eras. He played Lasker, who was champion in the 1890s, and he refereed Kasparov, who dominated until the 2000s.
That is the definition of a legacy. He saw it all. He saw the game change from art to science, but he never lost that romantic spirit. He remained the storyteller, the wit, the observer.
So what does this all mean for us? For the learner listening to this?
I think it humanizes the game. It is easy to look at a computer engine today and see a plus 1.5 advantage and think chess is just math. It's easy to think of these grandmasters as computers made of meat.
Sure.
But Mikenas reminds us that chess is played by people.
People who smoke too much.
People who get arrogant and swing their legs on the table. People who get scared and play for a draw. People who get distracted by a pretty face.
A psychological element.
Precisely. The moves on the board are just the tip of the iceberg. The real game is happening in the sweat, the silence, and the eyes of the players. Mikenas was a master of observing that layer of the game. And his stories remind us that even the geniuses are flawed, funny, and fragile.
It's a great reminder. Next time you blunder a piece in an online game, just remember, Mikenas once confused himself trying to trick a blindfolded man.
And Flohr, a world-class grandmaster, got crushed in 20 moves because he was too relaxed. It happens to the best of them.
That's a comforting thought. Thank you for walking us through this time capsule.
My pleasure.
And for you listening, here's a final thought to mull over. We talk about how Mikenas felt hypnotized by Alekhine. In the age of AI, we don't have that problem. A computer doesn't stare at you. But I wonder, do we lose something when we remove the fear? Does the game lose its soul when you aren't trembling in the bushes, waiting to see the world champion arrive? Something to think about.